Near to her home in southeast London, Cara has stumbled upon some extraordinary treasures.
I can sometimes dig up shark teeth in our nearby woods, which used to be under the sea.
These teeth are probably about 40 to 45 million years old, which means they are fossils. But how do we know they are shark teeth? And if they are, did these sharks look anything like the ones we have today? This conundrum is at the heart of finding fossils, especially when they're from animals that no longer exist. Welcome to The Conversation's Curious Kids, the podcast where a kid asks a great question and we find a very clever expert to answer it. I'm Eloise and...
My name's Cara. I come from Erith, which is in Greater London, and my age is 9.
And these shark teeth have got Cara wondering.
How do we know what dinosaurs look like? All we have to show is bones, so how do we know what they look like on the outside?
Thank you so much for your question. So, Cara, what is your favourite dinosaur?
My favourite dinosaur, I think, is the Diplodocus. I just like how it's one of the many dinosaurs which is not a carnivore, and I quite like the fact that it's faced like a giraffe.
Oh, it looks like a giraffe. Yeah, that's very sweet. Long neck, that makes sense.
And that's all I'm qualified to say about dinosaurs today. Luckily, we've got an expert here with us who can shed a lot more light on Cara's question.
Hello, my name's Neil Gostling. I'm an Associate Professor of Evolution and Paleobiology at the University of Southampton, and I work on mostly dinosaurs at the moment. That's what everyone's really interested in.
You might call him a paleontologist. That's somebody who studies fossils. Remember that word, it's going to be important for later. So Neil, what's your favourite dinosaur?
Oh, goodness me. Okay, so my favourite dinosaur, I think we have to go back to about 1979. Mum sat me down in front of Life on Earth.
One of the early David Attenborough documentaries.
And the first episode talks about Archaeopteryx, which is the first bird. It's 150 million years old. And one of the things which we learned from that is that birds are dinosaurs, which is really why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
It's true. Birds are dinosaurs. And if you go and listen to our episode from Series 1, you can find out all about this. It's called If an Asteroid Hit Earth and All the Humans Died, Would the Dinosaurs Come Back? In that episode, we talk a lot about what dinosaurs look like. And you've probably read some books which also give you a very clear image in your head. People like Neil work very hard to make those images as accurate as possible. And to do that, they need a lot of clues. It's kind of like doing an absolutely enormous jigsaw puzzle. So, what's our first piece? As Cara said, it's bones!
So, what is it like, Neil, to find a dinosaur bone out in the field?
It's absolutely remarkable. I have been lucky enough to walk along on the Isle of Wight, which is absolutely the best place in Britain and one of the best places in the world to find dinosaurs.
That's fantastic. Have you been there, Cara?
We have been there, and we're going to go again next August.
Oh, so you're going to go and look for fossils?
Yep, definitely.
Exciting! So say Cara finds one in August. What should she do, Neil?
So the first thing you do is you get on the phone to me and you say, "Hi Neil, I found a bone." No. Okay, so the first step would be cleaning up the bone. They very rarely come out of the ground without other bits of rock stuck to them. So you'd have to clean it all up so that you can see what you're looking at. And then you go to your museums and you have a look and you go through all of the other material, all of the other specimens that you've ever found.
And try and figure out what kind of bone it is.
Is it a leg bone? Is it a tail bone? Is it a neck bone, arm bone, hand bone? And you find out what it is. So let's say that it's a bone from the neck. Does this bone look like other neck bones from other known dinosaurs? You're looking to see if the features that you can see in this bone are the same as others. If they're the same, then you assign that bone to that named group of animals, that species that you've got. If it's not, if it's different, well, then you start to ask yourself questions about, is it a new species?
And if that is the case, this is only the beginning of a lot more work
You go back and you look for more. And you do the same thing again when you find some more material. Does it look like things that we've found already? Is it new? And eventually you have enough evidence and you can say, this is a new specimen.
And register it as a brand new dinosaur. How exciting! This process has a special name.
We call it comparative anatomy, comparing the anatomy of one animal with another and putting things together as best we can.
Which is a brilliant idea. But scientists don't always get it right on the first try.
There was a man called Georges Cuvier, who was a Frenchman, and he was the greatest anatomist of the 19th century.
About 200 years ago, some teeth were found in a place called Cuckfield in the south of England, and they were sent to Cuvier.
And he looked at them and he noticed that these teeth looked exactly like the teeth of iguanas, the reptiles that are alive today.
And so he called this dinosaur Iguanodon.
And that's what iguanodon means. Iguanodon means iguana's tooth. And the other thing that was found was this spike. And they weren't really sure what it was, but he looked at the features that we see in an animal called Iguana rhinolopha, which is a living iguana. And he looked at rhinoceroses and things like that, and he thought that this spike went on its nose.
Huge life-size models were made based on his research, and if you're lucky enough to go to Crystal Palace in London, you can see them.
It was reconstructed as this enormous four-legged animal with a spike on its nose, dragging its tail along behind it.
The problem is, today, 200 years later, those models?
They're totally wrong, but they're the first time people were putting these ideas together. But we shouldn't criticise them. What we should say is these are the pioneers who have discovered something new and are trying to put it together.
And over the years, paleontologists built on Cuvier's research.
Because we then found a complete hand, we found out that the spike on its nose is actually a spike on its thumb.
This discovery made paleontologists change their minds about the way the iguanodon walked around.
Rather than walking along on all fours with a nose like a rhinoceros, it was reconstructed, walking along, dragging its tail behind it, but on its big hind legs, sort of walking along with its thumbs up like some sort of weird kangaroo.
But then some iguanodon footprints were found, and this completely changed what people thought about the iguanodon again.
We can see these on the Isle of Wight, and we can see that there are small handprints, and then we've got big footprints coming in on the top. So we know that these animals are actually walking along on all fours, back to how they were originally interpreted, and then going back onto two legs to clamber up and grab vegetation for them to eat and all this sort of thing.
So dinosaur footprints and bones can tell us a lot about how their skeletons fit together and how they moved. But what about what they actually looked like? Time for our next piece of the jigsaw.
Traditionally, what we've done is something called shrink wrapping, where we've got our skulls, and what we do is we basically take some skin and we stretch it across the skull.
Neil holds up the skull of an animal called a dromaeosaur.
This is an animal a bit like Velociraptor. It's got its sharp teeth.
And he tries to do a bit of shrink wrapping himself.
I've got a piece of cling film here, and I've just stretched it across.
He points to the bit that is supposed to be the animal's cheek. Problem is,
it is very thin. There's no muscles or anything here. If you feel your face, you've got skin, you've got muscles, you've got fat in your cheeks, you've got a nose. Noses don't preserve in the fossil record. So we lose that from these fossils. By shrink wrapping, we end up with some very weird animals.
So how do we get a good idea of how the skin sits on the bones? It's super difficult. But there is one area that can give us a pretty good idea.
One of the big questions in dinosaur paleontology is, do dinosaurs have lips? And there is a good way of working this out. Can you picture in your head, can you imagine an alligator?
Yeah.
Can you picture in your head and imagine a crocodile?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile?
This is tricky. I would say that crocodiles have more teeth showing.
Yeah, crocodiles have more teeth showing, and alligators don't. Why can't you see an alligator's teeth? What have alligators got that crocodiles don't have?
I think it's the lips.
Lips, absolutely. Alligators have lips and crocodiles don't. So what can we then look at to try and work out what might give us a hint? And it's the teeth. On the very outside of your teeth, the thing that makes them really strong and keeps them sharp is the enamel. And so if you take a crocodile's tooth, if you look at the enamel, the lip side is thinner than the tongue side because the outside is rubbing against things, there's particles in the water. If you look at an alligator's teeth, the labial, lip and tongue sides of the enamel are the same thickness. So what does that tell you?
They have lips.
Lips, absolutely.
These are protecting their teeth from all those grubby bits in the water. Paleontologists examined dinosaurs' teeth in exactly the same way. So what have they found?
The thickness of the enamel shows us that theropod dinosaurs, the carnivorous dinosaurs, had lips.
So we've got the bones and we've got some skin, or to be precise, lips. But we still need to put a few more things under that skin. So what's the next piece of our jigsaw? That's coming up after this short break. Welcome back, curious kids. So we've got a few vital pieces in our jigsaw: bones and skin, or more specifically, lips. So what's next? Muscles! So how can paleontologists figure out what those look like?
With a muscle, they attach to a limb bone, and when they contract, they pull the limb in one direction.
When that dinosaur dies and the muscle decays, it leaves a mark on the bone where it used to be attached.
If you look at the size of the muscle scar on the limb, you can tell the size of that muscle. Bigger scars, bigger muscles, and so you can see the shape of the legs, the shape of the arms, the size of the muscles around the neck, for example.
That's excellent. So now we have most of our jigsaw pieces. How do we put them all together?
So a lot of what I do is CT scanning.
It's a bit like taking X-rays, but instead of producing 2D images, CT scanning creates 3D ones. It does this by taking hundreds of pictures of a fossil and piecing them all together on a computer.
That's how we've worked out the shape of dinosaurs' brains, how nerves and blood vessels are moving through bones. So we can use these really very modern techniques to look at animals and plants and all sorts of other fossils that are millions and millions of years old.
That's amazing! But our jigsaw puzzle is still in black and white. So how do we know what colour dinosaurs were? Well, it all comes down to feathers.
One of the things we've discovered is that not only did Archaeopteryx, the first bird, have feathers, but actually dinosaurs have feathers. And in the late 90s, we start to find lots and lots of dinosaur fossils where they have got feathers. The really, really big ones like T-Rex wouldn't have had feathers as an adult. But as a chick, having a fluffy covering would be good because that would help you to keep warm.
This blew everybody's minds because before that we thought they were mostly big scaly things.
And what's beautiful is some of them are so well preserved that you can use a scanning electron microscope, so really high magnification, and you can see structures called melanosomes inside the feathers themselves.
Melanosomes. We talked about these in Series 1 in the episode Can Chameleons Change Colour When They Sleep? Melanosomes contain melanin, which is the colouring we find in our skin and hair. By looking at the melanosomes in feathers, we can find out what colour dinosaurs and ancient birds would have been.
I've got this model here. This is a pair of birds from about 125 million years ago called Confucius ornis from China. We know that they had black feathers. We know that Archaeopteryx had black feathers. We know that another animal called Sinosauropteryx, which isn't a bird but it is a non-avian dinosaur, it has a stripy tail covered in fuzzy feather-like structures, and we can see that it's banded reddy brown and white all the way along its tail and across its body.
Wow. So 200 years after Georges Cuvier and the iguanodon bones, we have so many more pieces to the jigsaw puzzle. And so many more to be found.
We've got a really good idea now of what dinosaurs would have looked like. And none of it is guesswork.
I think that's very impressive. So just from bones to suddenly see all the skin, how the dinosaurs looked and moved back when they were alive.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Conversation's Curious Kids. This podcast was made by The Conversation, a news and analysis platform bringing research expertise to the world. You can go to theconversation.com and search for Curious Kids and find hundreds of answers to questions from kids just like you. The producer for this series is Katie Flood, and the executive producer is Gemma Ware. It was edited, presented, and sound designed by me, Eloise. If you like our show, go tell a friend how we know what colour dinosaurs would have been. This is the last episode in this series, but do keep emailing us at CuriousKids@theconversation.com with all your mind-boggling questions, and maybe we'll be back with a third series. And until then, bye!
If you're listening to this, you're either a curious kid or you've got one in the car with you right now. Either way, you're in the right place. I'm Marshall, co-host of Tumble, an award-winning science podcast for kids and families. We start with the questions that kids are actually asking, then take them to real scientists, covering everything from animals and dinosaurs to space and cats. Search for Tumble Science Podcast for Kids wherever you get your podcasts. Keep that curiosity going.
Hello, I'm Emma from the Earth Rangers podcast. If you think that animals are amazing, then our podcast is the one for you. Join me as I travel the world to discover the wildest animal facts out there and solve nature's biggest mysteries. If you're a fan of animal expeditions like on PBS's Wild Kratts and the BBC's Planet Earth, or the mystery and intrigue of Carmen Sandiego, then you'll love the Earth Rangers podcast. This is a journey you won't want to miss. Follow the Earth Rangers podcast on Apple Podcasts, and for more information, go to gzmshows.com. See you soon!